Hello, Tech Pros, episode 147.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week, we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started.
Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostick, and I'm excited to be here talking to you about an awesome topic, which I have a lot of fun on several of these episodes of Hello, Tech Pros being unplugged, and that is role-playing games. I'm a big fan of role-playing games. I don't have a guest today, honestly, because for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but these episodes are the hardest to get booked with guests. It's very, very difficult to get guests ahead of time to volunteer to say, hey, Chad, I'll talk about being unplugged. The guests that I have had on these episodes, I really appreciate you guys because there's an endless supply of people that want to talk about entrepreneurship and about technology, and even recently, very, very recently, leadership. So there's always been ebbs and flows on which one of these episodes was more popular with the guests and which one of these episodes was more popular with the audience members. But for right now, I'm honestly really, really struggling with getting people to sign up early enough to publish episodes on being unplugged. So I thought, you know what? This is a great opportunity for me to talk about some of the things that I love to do to get unplugged. And I've talked about it a little bit with other folks on a couple of other episodes, specifically episode 21 and 126 that I'll mention here in a little bit. But the topic is on role-playing games. So if you think of Dungeons & Dragons, Star Wars Tabletop, Pathfinder, there's been so many that I've played over the course of my life. I've been playing these games for a long, long time, for off and on. Not every day, not every week, not every year, but certain periods of time that I've played consistently, and some periods of time where I play sporadically every now and then. But it's still something that I really love doing. And I was sitting down thinking about it the other day when I was talking about how I was a guest on someone else's podcast talking about confidence and where I got confidence. It was actually from playing Dungeons & Dragons, or specifically where I got confidence to do the podcasting and to talk on the mic. I got that from Dungeons & Dragons. So I thought this would be a really cool episode, in my opinion. You guys, please give me feedback. But I thought it would be a really fun episode to talk about the top 10 things in business that I've learned from playing role-playing games, right? So the top 10 things that I've learned that can be applicable to business that I've learned from playing Dungeons & Dragons and Star Wars role-playing games and Pathfinder and some of these other things. And then maybe at the end of this, you know what? I think I'll turn this into a series. So maybe after the end of this episode, we'll go ahead and start making plans for future episodes, specifically around role-playing games. And because I just love it. I love tabletop games. I love card games. I love role-playing games. There's something about each one of those that's really, really fun. And we'll get into those throughout the series. But let's get into it. So the top 10 things that I've learned from role-playing games applicable to business. Now, first of all, if you're listening to this episode, you have no idea what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Think of Monopoly, right? Think of the game of life, where you have a tabletop game, you have a six-sided dice or a couple of six-sided dice, you have some rules in place, and you move your tokens and your pawns around the board, and there is an objective, there is a score. You're usually competing against the other players. That is one type of tabletop game. Another type of tabletop game are role-playing games. And with these, some they're very structured and some they're very unstructured. My personal preference is more of the unstructured type. So the less structure it means the more creativity that we can have at the game. So let me give you an example of what this looks like. This is an imaginary world, an imaginary setting. Think like the setting of a book or the setting of a movie or the setting of a television series, where it's either high fantasy or low fantasy, or it's science fiction, or it's historical fiction. but it's a setting in which these characters are going to be heroes, they're going to be detectives, they're going to be involved in intrigue and just different plot points that are going on. And their objectives, these characters' objectives throughout this series, throughout this game that you play, is dependent on what the people around the table agree to of what's fun. Really, when you break it down, it is a cooperative storytelling process. So it's a chance to get together with your friends, to get together with your family, and to cooperatively tell the story as you're making it up on the fly of something that could have been turned into a movie, or could have been turned into a video game, or could have been turned into a television series. But instead, you guys are not writing, like typing out all of the, paragraph by paragraph. You're actually sitting around, in many cases, being very spontaneous and coming up with the setting and coming up with the interactions between the characters and interactions between the world spontaneously as you're playing the game. And for me, I love that because, first of all, it's just a great chance for me to sit down together with my friends and just enjoy each other's company. It's a great excuse just to get down and eat some snacks and to talk with each other and joke and laugh and have a great time. And that's awesome. That's so much fun. Back on episode 21, I had a great friend of mine, Robert Mitchell, on the show, and we talked about some of the games that we've played in the past, specifically the Star Wars role-playing game. And throughout that episode, we were just talking about playing games, right? We were talking about the process of playing games. We were talking about the process of, building characters inside Star Wars and basing them off of other characters from other books or movies and how fun it is. And throughout that, I was asking Robert about, some of the things that you have to do in order to get the other people at the table involved in the process and to get their creative juices flowing and to get everyone to kind of cooperate through this game. And he really started talking about it teaches you facilitation as the game master, as the person putting the game together and facilitating the game. It's a lot like being a scrum master at work, right? It's a lot like being a project manager in the office, where you're having to bring people together, organize them, get a common objective together, and get things out on the table and bring out the best out of each individual, right? So it's not just the one dominant person who wants to do all the talking, but really get the best ideas out of each person around the table. So facilitation is a great skill that you can use in the office and practice and learn on the weekends or at night with your friends by playing role-playing games. So you can go to that episode at hellotechpros.com/21. That's episode 21. And again, that was with Robert Mitchell. It's called What Star Wars RPGs Can Teach You About Facilitating Meetings. So that's lesson number one. There's a lot more detail in that episode and just a lot of interest about the Star Wars game itself if you want to check that episode out. I also talked on episode 126 with Nolan T. Jones, who's one of the co-founders to the software product Roll20. Now, if you haven't checked that out, that is an awesome tool to be able to host remote tabletop games. So pretend that you are sitting around a table, but instead you're kind of on this Skype session, right? You're kind of on this virtual desktop session where each person has their own computer. They're logged in from remote areas of the world, but they're all together. You can hear each other's voices. If you want to, you can see each other's faces, but more importantly, you can all see the board or the game or the cards or the whatever else that's being played there. And it's a really, really cool story that Nolan told us about how he and his friends decided to build that tool because he had to move across country and it really broke up the dynamics of he and his friends wanting to play. So again, we talked about a lot of facilitation stuff in that episode as well. You can discover that and listen to that story at hellotechpros.com/126. That's episode 126 with Nolan T. Jones. So facilitation, the first lesson that I've learned. The other lesson I've hinted about is confidence. Now, specifically what I'm talking about here is what brought it up is the confidence to get on a mic, the confidence to host a podcast and to discuss things publicly like I'm doing now, just kind of here in my office by myself to the microphone to you, or like I normally do throughout the week, is one-on-one with a guest. And so where this confidence came from for me specifically is when I thought I want to start a podcast, or I want to move into IT leadership, or I want to move from one company to another company. But throughout my career, throughout my life, I've struggled with this social anxiety. When you struggle with social anxiety, confidence is like the least amount of thing that you have available to you, right? It is a lot of self-deprecation. There's a lot of negative thoughts flowing out in your mind. And so anywhere that you can pick up some confidence when you're struggling with social anxiety is an awesome, awesome thing. So when I play role-playing games, right, I'm playing a character. I'm getting into character, and I'm pretending like I'm a hero, right? I'm this freaking elf wizard, right? That's got fireball spells and can devastate foes with my magic missiles. That's kind of cool. I can't do that in real life, but in a game, if I can roll higher than an 11 on a 20-sided dice, then I can devastate some bad guys. And as a game master, facilitating games and leading games, I can be all of the different characters in this world, and each one of those characters kind of has their own personality. They kind of have their own motivations. They kind of have their own skill sets. They have their own ways that they approach life. They have their own communication styles in many ways. And so by me playing role-playing games, specifically about me playing different types of characters, a diverse range of characters from orcs and dragons and elves and dwarves and humans and half-elves and just all kinds of different races and all kinds of different people in this world that want to do things. Some of these characters have mannerisms that are very proud of themselves and very confident, and I can act that way when I'm playing a character. But for me, when I was just trying to do life, just do the life thing, I struggle with me personally, Chad, having confidence in what I did. So if I could go into a situation and I could say, you know what, I'm going to invent another character at work, and for this situation, in this particular meeting, this particular instance, I'm going to pretend like I'm this character named Chad, who just, hey, coincidentally happens to have the same name as me, but he is further ahead in his career. He is further ahead in his business, and he is where I want to be. Now, what would that Chad say if he was in this position? Not to be completely disingenuous, that's not the point. Not to be completely fake, but to fake the confidence. Not to fake the experience, but to fake the confidence, right? And when you don't have confidence, you're telling yourself, I'm no good, nobody wants to listen to me, like my thoughts are invalid, I don't have enough experience, woe is me, nobody wants to hear this stuff. And so you sit there with your lips shut, just wondering about some of these ideas that you have or some of these passions that you have, but you're too ashamed to put them out there because you're afraid that someone's going to judge you. Well, instead, if you can channel an inner dragonborn warrior, right, and just say, hey, this person has conquered all of these problems. This character is very dynamic and has solved so many other problems and absolutely knows what he's talking about. If you can channel that character and just bring it forward as you, not, like I said, not in a disingenuous way, not in a really weird way where you're coming to work dressed up like a wizard and bringing a rubber sword into the office. Don't do that. Do that if you're in a culture in an office that loves that stuff. That's awesome. But don't. I'm not promoting that people pretend that like there's something they're not, or pretend like there's something they wish they were. They say dress for the job you want, not the job you have. That doesn't necessarily mean that you should go out and buy a Batman outfit and wear it around town and go to job interviews in your Batman outfit. So what I mean by this is fake your confidence, don't fake your experience. Channel your inner role-playing experience to be able to role-play the scenario ahead of time before you go into the meeting, or role-play the character of your future self once you get past this obstacle. For me, that's helped. It's helped me build my podcast. It's helped me build a lot of things in my career, and it's also allowed me to just develop relationships. You know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to spin this little topic off into its own episode someday in the future, because I got a lot of stuff to say here about this. If you're interested in this, I don't want to just be talking just because I think it's cool, but I think this area, this finding confidence through role playing, finding this confidence through the characterization of your future self. I think there's a lot of stuff here to say about that. So if you're interested, if you want to hear more, let me know, and I'll do like a whole episode or a whole series of episodes on that topic. Okay, so we talked about facilitation. We talked about confidence. Another one is leadership, right? So to lead a party as you're exploring a dungeon and to be responsible for the well-being of that party and say, you know what, guys, we are at a crossroads here in this dungeon. We can either go left where we feel the hot air and smell this stinky breath of what appears to be a red dragon, or we could go right and try to bypass the dragon. But if we do, we're not going to get to the treasure beneath, right? We could just find the escape. Making those tough decisions and going back to the facilitate those meetings of those tough decisions is a good skill to learn. That leadership skill of being able to, like I said before in facilitation, bring out the best of everyone, bring out the best ideas, and really come down to accountability and holding yourself responsible, holding the team members responsible, and making really, really tough decisions. Sometimes when there's no right or wrong, or there's no best answer, there's just, you know what, there's two tough answers. We're just going to have to do one of these. Leadership is another one. So facilitation, confidence, leadership. Cooperation is the fourth one. When you have individuals at a table, regardless of if you are in an architectural meeting, when you're trying to decide which technology to implement in your business, or you're at a role-playing game trying to decide which direction to take. Cooperation is key. Everybody has to get on the same page. Everybody has to have the same goals in mind. And when we are constantly fighting just for our own position and not learning to empathize with the other players at the table or the other people that we work with in business, then we're always looking out for ourselves. We're never giving anything up, or they are always looking out for themselves and they're never listening to us. It's gonna kill the party. You're gonna wipe out. There's a saying in role playing games. There's a saying in Dungeons and Dragons: don't split the party. Do not split the party. And what that means is anytime you have a group of 4 or 5 or 6 people and they're all on this mission together, they can accomplish great, magical, inhuman things when they work together. But when they disagree and they split up and their characters literally go to different parts of a dungeon or different parts of this fantasy universe, they will get picked off one by one. The party will get decimated by the bad guys one at a time or in little pockets of 2 and 3 because they weren't a unified front, because they weren't working together cooperatively, because they didn't look out for the greater good. So that cooperation is key. Along with that cooperation is the teamwork. The teamwork specifically around knowing who's good at which pieces. So the cooperation is just, let's all get together and I'm going to give up a little bit for the greater good. You're going to give up a little bit for the greater good. And together we will do things bigger than ourselves. But that teamwork really comes down to relying on each other's skill sets, right? So if I am a ranger archer, right, with a magical longbow, you don't want me in the front of the party tanking the bad guys, right? You don't want me in front trying to push the bad guys away, right? You want me in the back of the group providing range support with my bow. And I am trusting the healer that's running around between me and the other guys, the healer's probably going to be in front of me, healing the tanks, healing the fighters, healing the monks, healing the people who are going to be taking all of the damage from the bad guys, while I'm sitting back safely and like peppering people with bows and arrows, right? So I have to trust that the healer is going to be there taking care of my comrades in front of me, and I'm okay. I don't really need his help. And if I get hit a couple of times, I'll just hang in there. I'll be all right, right? So we all have our roles. We all have our things, our skill sets that we're good at, and we should rely on each other. We should trust each other. We should work hard as a team to support each other's best attributes and, to cover each other when we fall down. So again, don't feel like you need to run off into areas and take responsibility for things that it's not a natural strength. Learn to work together, learn to communicate with the other people and say, hey, I'm not very good at this. Can you handle it? And I can totally help you out over here in this area. Let's find out what each other's strengths are by having that communication, by having that cooperation, and then using those best skill sets to have good teamwork. Okay. Let's see, we talked about confidence, leadership, facilitation, cooperation, and teamwork. So those are the top 5. I don't know that we'll get through all of them. I think we can get through all of them. Let's get through 5 more really quick. We'll do really, really quick. We'll get through. And then you know what? Like I said, we'll turn this into a series. If there's enough demand, if there's enough downloads, if I get enough likes on Twitter, if I get enough people in the Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack saying, hey, Chad, I want to hear more about that role-playing game stuff, then we'll totally turn this into a series and talk more about role-playing games. So confidence, leadership, facilitation, cooperation, teamwork. Another one is diversity. So we talked about the different types of people that you need, the different types of people that you have on a team. Diversity is such a wonderful thing. If we were all exactly the same, it would be really, really hard to support each other. If we were all had the same strengths and we all had the same weaknesses and we all came from the same backgrounds, it would be very difficult to get anything done bigger and better than what just one or two of us could do, right? But when we come from different backgrounds, you're an elf and I'm a dwarf, right? She's a tiefling, right? And this other girl is a dragonborn, right? Because we come from different backgrounds, because we are different races, because we are different genders, because we have different skill sets and experiences and knowledge. When we work together, we can do things much bigger. We can take on so much more things if we work in a diverse ecosystem. So if I'm in a situation where I look out and I'm working with a bunch of people that look just like me and act just like me and think just like me, that's very comfortable. That's a comfortable place to be, but to me, that's the wrong place to be. I want to be in the middle of something more like a role-playing game, right? I want to be in the middle of a diverse party where there's an elven archer and there's a dwarven warrior and there's a gnome wizard, right? And we all have our different backgrounds. We all have our different experiences. We all have our different skill sets, and we can all support each other to get bigger, better things done rather than just do it all ourselves or surround ourselves by people who look and act and sound and think just like us. Diversity is awesome. It's a great thing. And when we're talking about teamwork, when we're talking about diversity, I've mentioned a couple times about doing bigger things than ourselves. My next thing that I've learned about business through role-playing games is you get the opportunity of being a part of something bigger than yourself. So when you're playing a video game, that's pretty cool. When you're playing a card game, that's very interesting, but they have kind of like finite, definite ends to them. When you're playing a role-playing game, you are changing the world. You are writing a story. You are evolving the characters within the game, and you have a huge impact in that. And you through your characters, could literally save the world, could literally I mean, literally save this fantasy imaginary world, but could literally change like the scope of how this entire universe works by just working together in a diverse team and having great teamwork. Same thing at business, right? When we work on something with diversity, with a lot of cooperation, with a lot of confidence, with great teams that are supporting each other, then we can build things, we can build products that are way bigger than what we could do alone. We could, solve problems for our customers way more efficiently than we could do by ourselves. And we just have this impact on the world when we work together as this diverse, smooth running team, that we can make an impact in the world, whether it be the fantasy world in our imaginary role-playing game, or whether it's the real actual world that we're working in with business and technology. We can do things bigger than ourselves. Along the way, though, sometimes we have to share resources. That's another one that's on my list here. Is sharing resources is a big one that we have to learn, because unfortunately there's a finite amount of resources. There's only so much gold that the party has. There's only so much budget that's in a company for us to buy tools or hire people, right? So we have to learn how to share resources in order to get things accomplished. And sometimes that means right now I'm going to kind of not upgrade my computer, because I know that budget, that dollars would be better spent if we sent this other individual to a conference this year, because that's going to make a bigger impact on the team. That's going to have a bigger impact on the amount of stuff that we can get done if we send this person to a conference, and she can like totally learn some new skills and build us some social energy out there, and provide some more relationships for us, for our team. Then that's going to have a bigger impact than if I had a newer computer, right? Same thing as if we get a magical artifact. Well, not everybody can carry around the magical greatsword. Doesn't make sense, right? For everybody to take turns with a magical greatsword, and every week, right, we switch it off. Well, the gnome wizard's not going to have any use for it. So give it to the big barbarian, right? Give it to the barbarian. Let the barbarian have that. When we find a different treasure, then when it's the right treasure for that character, then you can totally have it. So sharing resources, regardless of if you're in the boardroom or if you're in the treasure hoard for the dragon's treasure, is equally important. Okay, so we talked about confidence, leadership, facilitation, cooperation. I didn't talk about negotiation. That's another one too. Negotiation is very big. Because when we're sharing those resources, sometimes we have to negotiate. Sometimes we have to have a crucial conversation, like we talked about earlier in this week. I think it was on Friday of this week, where we talked about crucial conversations in episodes 145 of Hello Tech Pros, about how important it is sometimes to talk about what's important to you and to talk about what's important to the other person. So sometimes we have the overall goal of where we want to get to, right? We want to go rescue the land from this plague that's being, we're being infected by some plague that came from the Shadowfell or something like that. Okay, that's great, but how are we going to do it? Well, probably different people have different side quests, right, that they want to accomplish. The elf wants to go talk to the elven high lords, and the dwarf, he wants to just go find the magical artifact, and the thief wants to leave and go to a different land altogether and just get away from it, right? So everybody has their own side quests. Everybody has their own ideals on the way we should do stuff. And it really comes down to negotiation, those crucial conversations, those, we're trying to get the overall win here. So that means some people are going to have to make compromises. Some people are going to have to make sacrifices. And we're going to have to rely on that communication, those crucial conversations, in order to figure out what all's at stake for each individual person and what all's at stake for the bigger group itself. Confidence, leadership, facilitation, cooperation, negotiation, diversity, being part of something bigger than ourselves, teamwork, sharing resources, and at the end, it all comes down to overcoming adversity. Number 10 on my list is overcoming adversity. And that is so applicable in so many different ways. I mean, that's why I got Motivation Monday every Monday. What we'll be talking about tomorrow is we've all had these periods in our lives where we just get crushed, right? We have a TPK, total party kill, wiped out. Everybody got all the characters got killed, and your souls are now, whisked away into the abyss. And what are you going to do about it? Well, in real life, I don't know what you do when you... never mind, I'm not going to touch that one. But we all have these periods in our real life and in our fantasy games where things don't turn out the way that we wanted to. Where we go through adversity, where we go through struggles, we go through difficult times. And you have two choices when you do that. You can either give up and you can quit and you can throw the dice across the room and you could break your pencil in half and you could log off of your computer, log off of Roll20, right? Or you have the opportunity and the choice to be like, okay, that sucked. Now what are we going to do about it? Okay, well, here are some options. Let's lay it out. Let's get proactive. Let's get motivated. Let's get fired up. Let's support each other. Let's love on each other. Let's cooperate. Let's negotiate. And let's go tackle it again. We all face adversity every single day. I don't care who you are, what kind of background you come from. We all face different types of adversity in real life stuff. I'm not talking about the fantasy game anymore. I'm talking about real life adversity. And just because you look across the table and you think this person's got it all, man, she's got it all. She's got the brain, she's got the looks, she's got the talent, she's got the name, she's got everything. She doesn't know the struggles that I've been through. She can't relate. Well, I guarantee you that she's got something in her life, something in her business that she has had to work like a mad dog girl in order to overcome that adversity. And just because whatever that thing is might have been easy for me or come natural to me, or I never ever had to think about that in my life, doesn't mean that it's not important. It doesn't mean that it's not very, very important to this individual and very, very life-changing for each individual. So when you're at your meeting on Monday, when you're sitting around the staff meeting, everybody's going through their things that they're working on, try to think and try to listen from the point of each one of these individuals have overcome some huge adversity in their life. And it's probably completely different from mine, and I may not be able to relate, but it's there. And each one of them has a Motivation Monday story. And together, we are working on something bigger than ourselves, more important than ourselves, that if we understand each other, if we focus on the positivity of diversity, if we have confidence that we can get through this together, if we're good leaders and good stewards and facilitate these meetings well, we cooperate, we share our resources, we negotiate about the things that are important to us, that we can and will overcome this adversity together as a team. All right, that's all I've got for this week, for this Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros. I'm going to turn this into a series. So I'll leave it up to you, the audience. Do you want to hear more about each one of these, about how these topics can relate, right? So do you want an episode on confidence and role-playing games? Do you want an episode on cooperation and role-playing games? Stuff that's really applicable to business? Or do you just want to talk about dice and world building and character building and storytelling and that kind of stuff? Because I could go either way. I love this stuff. So let me know. Email me at chad@hellotechpros.com. Come to the Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. Tweet me at hellotechpros and just say, hey, Chad, I listened to episode, what are we at? Episode, I have no idea where we're at today. Episode 147. I listened to episode 147 about role-playing games and the top 10 things that you learn from role-playing games that can be applicable to business. But I want to hear more about X, Y, Z. Right? You want to learn about how to play because you never played before. You want to learn about how to get a group together and play. You want to learn about this actual business stuff that I'm talking about and not so much about role-playing games. If you don't tell me, then I'm just going to pick one and I'm going to go and forget you because you didn't provide me any feedback. If you do provide feedback, I will absolutely implement it on the next episode next Sunday. So check back and see what the votes have been. All right, you've been listening to Chad Bostick, and until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/147. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io.
Are you new to podcasting? Are you looking for a fast, high-quality, yet budget-friendly podcast production team? Let TransSource Media take care of you. With a team of professional audio and video editors, writers, and graphic artists, they can help you build your podcast from planning, post-production, and platform submission. Using only cutting-edge software and studio equipment, they're here to make each and every show sound at its best. To get a free quote, please visit www.transsourcemedia.com or send them an email at marketing@transsourcemedia.com or call them at 209-505-5693. TransSource Media, transforming businesses through the power of multimedia. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Sunday being unplugged, but tomorrow my featured guest and I will get fired up and ready to face the week with Motivation Monday. On Tuesday, we'll be discussing productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and back again on Sunday to get unplugged. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.